and welcome back to my channel. My name's Erica. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful crochet granny square pillow. Supplies are really easy. You're just going to need some granny squares. I do have a tutorial on how to make these. I chose to make mine with 4 different colors and then 1 color for the outside, but of course you can make them any color that you like. I will put a link here on that tutorial. You're also going to need a coordinating crochet hook, some scissors, some yarn needles. I like these by Clover. They're really easy to use to weave in your yarn. Some wonder clips are helpful for this. Of course, you're going to need some fun colors. I'm using Lori Holt Chunky Thread, and I purchased mine at Fat Quarter Shop. I will link all of that below. Now, as far as your zipper and fabric goes, you're going to need a zipper that's basically as long as your pillow is. So yours might be a different size than mine. I just make sure it's longer than what I need. That way I can trim it down. For the fabric, you're going to need 2 panels that are about 1 inch larger than your finished crochet panel. So I just measured my finished crochet panel. It was about 16 inches square. And so I cut 2 pieces that were 17 inches square. And I will have a link for all of these supplies below. Let's go ahead and get started on how I prepared my granny squares. So I went ahead and started making granny squares, and I did all of the colors first and then I chose my outside color later. So here is just some of the granny squares that I made. Now for my pillow, I did it 4 by 4, so I have 16 granny squares per side, so a total of 32 granny squares. Then I chose my outside color. For me, I'm going to be doing this white color, and then I just did a 5th row around the outside of all of those squares. Next, I joined them all together, and I joined mine using a whip stitch. I do have a video on how to join your granny squares. I will link that here. There are 3 different styles, so just choose the one that you like best. And of course, I joined them with the same color that I did that 5th round in, so everything is very seamless and it all matches. So here are my 2 finished pillow units, and I just didn't have a large enough blocking board, so I've actually just pinned them to a towel, sprayed them, and then as soon as they're dry, I can pull them off and they'll be ready to sew together. Next, I did a single crochet all the way around the edge of my finished panels. And this one on top here you can see has that single crochet edge. The one in the back does not. And you can see that it's quite a bit stretchier and it looks a little bit messier. That single crochet line gives you something to stitch your lining to. And it also just makes your pillow look a little bit more finished. So to do our single crochet, we're going to insert our hook somewhere in the middle of one of our squares and pull up a loop. And then we're going to just yarn over and pull that through. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just drop that tail so it's out of my way, and we're just going to continue on with the working yarn. Now, I do like to start in the middle of a square rather than where 2 squares are joined. I think it just looks a lot neater. So now we're just going to continue on pulling up loops and yarning over and pulling through, doing single crochets in every single stitch all the way around the edge of our pillow. And as you can see here, the single crochet is really easy. We're just going into each stitch, pulling up a loop, yarning over, and pulling through. And as you can see, we're already starting to have a nice little edge going there. Let's take a quick close-up view so you can see I'm actually going through both legs of that stitch when I pull up my yarn over, and pull through both loops. You do want to make sure you're going through both legs. It's just going to make everything a little more tidy and a little bit more secure. Now, as far as this join goes, I'm going to just keep doing 1 single crochet in each stitch across, but when I get to my join, I like to try and just find one place to stick my hook in, and I just do 1 single crochet at that join. You could do 2 in there depending on how you joined it, but whatever you do in each join, just be consistent and your pillow should look fine. And here we can see that join just looks nice and neat now. We just pulled 1 stitch through there, and it's just giving us a nice solid edge to kind of finish off our pillow, and also, like I said, give us something to stitch our lining to. So we're going to speed it up here, and I'm just going to make it all the way to that corner. All right, now that we're at our first corner, we're going to treat, like I said, it the same, but we're actually going to do 2 single crochets in each corner. So there's 1, and then we're going to do another one in that same corner space. So we have 2 single crochets in each corner, and then we're going to just turn our work and continue on down the other side. And those 2 single crochets in the corner are just going to give us kind of a more corner look to our finished pillow. It's just going to finish it off nicely. If you do 1 single crochet there, you kind of run the risk of it looking a little bit curved in on those edges. So here's a close-up of what it's looking like so far. We've got that edge you can see there is still really stretchy and kind of not as nice looking. And then now we have our single crochet edge here, which is just looking really nice and giving it that finished touch. And then of course the two in the corner give it that nice corner look. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on down this entire row doing single crochets. I'll speed it up a little bit. You can watch if you like. You can slow it down if you like. All right, so we made it all the way back around and I'm back to my very first stitch. And we're gonna join with a slip stitch, but I have a little trick for you so that you don't see that join. A lot of times you'll see a join. So we're gonna pull up a loop so we don't lose it, and we're gonna put our hook in from the back to the front on that first stitch, our first single crochet. I'm gonna put my loop back on my hook and pull that loop through to the back. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull a loop through. And then now we can cut our thread or our yarn, and we can just pull that all the way through and just pull it tight. And then you have a nice seamless join, and you don't notice that lump or gap like you normally would with a regular slip stitch. So now we're going to turn our work over, and our only job here is just to weave in these ends. And since they're so close together, I'm going to go ahead and weave them in at the same time. And just to get this first stitch down to where the other thread is, I'm just going to put it through that one little loop right there, so they're kind of coming out of the same place. And now I can put them both on my needle and weave them in at the same time. Before I do that, I'm just going to clip them off so they're about the same length. That's just a little bit easier. You don't have to do that. And I'm going to thread my yarn onto my yarn needle. And now we're just going to weave in our ends, and you can weave them in wherever you want. I'm just going to pick up a few stitches down this back side and just weave them in until I feel like it's secure. And since it's on the back side, you're not going to see this from the front. And since we're weaving our ends in behind the same exact color we already stitched in, you also won't see it. So just pick some stitches to go through, weave in your ends, and then I will meet you back here. All right, now that our panels are blocked, look at how nice they look. Look at that finished single crochet edge we have right there. It just looks so nice and neat. Now it's time to line our panels. So I've prepared 2 pieces of fabric. Like I mentioned, I cut them 1 inch larger than my finished panels, and then I took them to my ironing board and I pressed in the edges, pressed them under 1/4 of an inch and then another 1/4 of an inch so that I don't have any raw edges. And now I'm turning my panel over so it's right side down, and I'm just going to clip that fabric on to the back side of my panel using these Wonder Clips. And I'm just kind of finagling it so that my panel is as straight as possible, my fabric is as straight as possible, but I want a little edge of stitching, that single crochet edge, to stick above a little bit my fabric panel. And that's because we're going to be crocheting our 2 panels together, and so we want to be able to get into those stitches. You don't want to stitch your fabric larger than your crochet portion, because then you won't be able to crochet the 2 squares together. So here you can see an up close where I have just an edge of my stitches peeking out behind my fabric panel. And now we're going to take this to the sewing machine and sew right along that edge using about a 1/8 to 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, when you're sewing, a trick is to put your fabric down and your crochet up. That way your crochet won't get caught in the teeth of your sewing machine. Now, I do a back stitch right there before I get started just to secure it. And another handy tool that I'm using here is my stiletto, and I can just use that to grab my crochet and just straighten it out and just make sure everything looks nice and straight. And I'm really just sewing right along that edge of single crochets that I just did. Here's an up close of my stiletto. This is by Modern American Vintage. I love this tool. I actually have several of his tools in my arsenal here for sewing, but the stiletto is perfect for this. I've also got a point turner, a Hera marker, a presser, finger presser, and I have a seam roller as well. So he makes really cool stuff. I will link his products below. Not only are they beautiful, but they're also functional. So let's continue on sewing. Now you are sort of blind sewing here, but I can see my fabric underneath my crochet. So you can stop every now and then, just make sure everything is still lined up and that you are hitting that fabric on the underside. And then when you get to your corner here, you're going to remove that clip. You're going to sew about 1/4 of an inch away from your edge. You're going to leave your needle in the down position, lift your presser foot, turn your pillow, lower your presser foot, and then just continue on. And this whole time I'm looking underneath just to make sure that I'm still getting that fabric in with my stitching. All right, here are my 2 panels finished, and once they're done, I just flip them over really quick and just make sure that I've not missed any areas since I'm sewing from the back side. If there's any area I missed, I can just go back and stitch it really quickly and just make sure that it's all nice and secure. And here you can see that row of stitches that are just peeking out over the top edge of that fabric. That's going to allow us to be able to stitch our 2 panels together. All right, we're going to remove one of our panels and just set it aside, and we're going to grab our zipper and we're going to position it on top of our pillow panel. And I like to position it so it's about 1.5 to 2 inches in from each edge. And then for my zipper, I did take my sewing machine and just run some stitches right there to make sure that my zipper has a stopper on it since I'm using a longer zipper, and there you can see it up close. And I just do that so that I have a stopping point so my zipper doesn't obviously pull right off the end when I'm opening and closing it. Next, we're going to place our panel right side down, so we're working on our fabric side, and then we're going to place our zipper right side down on top of that, lining it up as shown here in the video, so that when we have our 2 panels together, that zipper is going to be accessible. Next, I'm just going to pin it in place. I'm not going to worry about cutting my zipper at this time. We're just going to be working with that zipper and panel, so we don't need to cut it right now. But I am going to pin it all the way down the edge here just to keep it in place so that while I'm sewing, it doesn't move around on me. And these zippers have finished edges, so I'm not going to worry about covering that edge up or anything. It's going to be on the inside of a pillow and you're never going to see it. All right, now we're going to take this to our sewing machine and we're going to sew right down this edge. But before we do that, and this is totally optional, I am going to flip my panel over and I'm going to unpin that zipper edge that we have right here. And I'm just going to fold that back just a tad. That way you're not going to have that raw zipper edge peeking out inside your pillow top. You do not have to do this. This is completely optional. I just like to do it so that you don't see that little raw pinked edge. Next, we're going to take it to our sewing machine and we're going to sew again right along that edge, making sure to sew on the fabric, the crochet, and the zipper. And as we go along, I adjust the panel just so it's kind of covering up that zipper just slightly. You don't want to get caught in the zipper teeth, but you do want it to kind of hide the zipper a little bit. Honestly, this is a pretty forgiving part, and once you have your pillow stuffed in there, and if you put your zipper to the bottom, you're not really going to see it anyway. And then I am going to backstitch when I get down here to the end just to make sure it's secure. All right, so now we have our first panel done and our zipper is secure. Now we're going to line it up the exact same way using our other panel. And you're just going to want to make sure that your panels are lined up. One panel is lined up with the other panel. And then again, we're just going to pin this in place. As I'm lining these panels up, I do try and line up those seams. If they're not perfect, it's not going to matter. You just want to do your best here and just pin it in place. And then since I did it on the other side, I am going to flip back that tip of that zipper before I pin it down, just to kind of keep it out of the way and make it look a little more finished. Now we're going to take it back over to our machine and again sew down that panel, making sure to catch our zipper, the fabric underneath, and our crochet. And I'm just straightening it out as I go. It's really, like I said, pretty forgiving. And I do backstitch at the stop and start. All right, here's our finished panel. Everything is nice and secure, and I do flip it over and just make sure that I've gotten the zipper and everything included in my stitch line, and then I have gone ahead and just cut off any of my excess zipper. And now we're going to take our panels and we're going to place them wrong sides together and just make sure all of our stitches are lined up, and we're going to single crochet all the way around the edge of the pillow, obviously except for where the zipper is. So what we need for this part is just our thread, our hook, and then you're going to need your yarn needles when we're done. So I'm going to start on this left side of my panel. Now when I start here, I'm going to start just to the right of where I stitched that zipper stopper. It's going to cover it up and make it just look more professional when our pillow is finished. So we're going to start by creating a slip knot. And to do that, you're just going to make a loop and then push that tail up through your loop and then just pull to tighten. And now we're going to go into those 2 stitches that I have decided to start in. You're going to want to get both legs of those stitches. And we're going to pull up that loop, and now we can drop our tail. We'll weave that in when we're done. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops, and that'll be our first stitch. Next, we're going to do single crochets all the way around the edge of our pillow to join the 2 panels together. And I am going to be making sure to go through both legs of our stitches. So you're going to go through both stitches, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both loops. And we're going to do that all the way around the edge of our pillow. And much like before, we are going to do 2 single crochets in every corner piece. And that's pretty much it. We're going to be doing single crochets all the way down the edge of this pillow. And as you can see, it's already creating a nice little ridge right on that outside edge that looks super professional and finished. Now, like I said, when we get to our first corner, we're going to do 2 single crochets in each corner space. So here's an up close. We're going to go in that stitch, the stitch in the back. We're going to do 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do another single crochet in that same exact stitch. And now we have 2 in that corner stitch. Placing 2 single crochets in each corner will just give you a really nice finished corner look to your final pillow. Now we're going to continue on down all the rest of our pillow, joining the 2 panels together using that single crochet. Now, if you made your panels the same size and did the single crochet around the edge the same, all of your stitches should line up. If you get yourself into a position where you have 1 or 2 more stitches on one panel than the other, you can join 2 together. You can kind of skip over one. There's a lot of things you can do to fudge it to make it look like they are the exact same size, even if you had like an extra stitch here or there. So give yourself some leniency. You'll never even notice it in your finished pillow. All right, and here is how it's looking so far. As you can see, that's really giving it a nice finished edge, and I think our pillow is going to turn out great. Here's a close-up for you so you can see exactly how I'm joining those 2 stitches. I'm just lining them up and going through both stitches, doing that yarn over, pulling up my loop, yarning over, and pulling through. So I'm going to continue on joining my 2 panels, and I'm just doing my single crochet because I like how that looks, but of course you have the flexibility to do whatever you want here. You could do double crochets so your edge is a little bit more decorative. You could even do scallops like we did on our bag. That would be really cute as well. So have fun with it and do whatever you want on your pillow edge. Now we've made it all the way around the edge of our bag, and we're to where our zipper starts. Again, I want to go a couple of stitches past where my zipper stop is, just so that it looks a little bit nicer. And I'm just trying to make it about the same on both sides of my pillow. So whatever I did on the other corner, I'm going to do on this one. Now we can go ahead and clip our yarn over, and pull it through and secure. And then our last step here is to just weave in our ends. Now I'm going to go ahead and thread my yarn on my needle, and I like to weave the ends in on the inside of the pillow because it's just less noticeable, but you can go down that single crochet edge. You probably won't see that either, but I like to just do it here on this back side. So I'm just going to be picking a few of these stitches and just weaving my thread in or yarn. Sorry, I keep saying thread because I do a lot of quilting, but I'm going to just be weaving my yarn in and then just tug on it to make sure it's secure and cut it off. And we're going to do that on both sides. And here we have our finished pillow with a zipper enclosure. That means you can take this off of your pillow insert and wash it. There's no raw edges inside, so you don't have to worry about anything fraying. And I would suggest hand washing this item though, just to make sure you don't ruin it in a washing machine. But look how nice that finished edge is. It all just turned out so cute. And then the last step is to just put in your pillow insert. And I like to use a pillow insert that is just slightly larger than my finished pillow. My finished pillow was between 16 and 17 inches, so I got an 18-inch pillow insert, and I think it just really fills out the pillow and makes it look extra puffy. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to thumbs up and subscribe. That way I know to keep making them for you. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time.